for watching ChillyBoy Productions. I'm Larry, ChillyBoy Chilson, and this is my review for Ghostbusters Afterlife. Now, before we get into this review, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my new videos. Ghostbusters Afterlife is a 2021 action comedy that follows a single mother who inherits her father's house. And when her and her two children move in, they find out that their father had a certain connection to the original group called the Ghostbusters. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting for this film to finally arrive. Yeah, thanks, Rona. But it's here. It's finally here. Now, I know audiences have been watching this since the CinemaCon a few months ago. They got to screen the full thing. I believe New York City Comic Con also had like a full on showing of the entirety of the film. And the buzz from general moviegoers that have gotten the opportunity to watch, and even those theater insiders and employees who got to watch it at CinemaCon, was pretty positive. However, the critical response has been very mixed. But as we saw with my Eternals review, I have not been really in step with critics on some of these big time releases this year. So I was excited. I thought the trailer looked fun. It looked interesting, but it never quite caught me. So I was still skeptical. Now, I'm someone who thinks the 2016 Ghostbusters is fun. It's perfectly fine. And my bae, my boo, my man, Chris Hemsworth is amazing in it, but it gets far too much hate. I also don't love Ghostbusters 2, but who doesn't love the original 80s Ghostbusters? I mean, come on. So I was ready for Afterlife, and ultimately, I think it's okay. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I ended up kind of just feeling like, meh, that was fine. So let's go ahead and talk about the positives first. I want to start the positives off just by talking about Jason Reitman, who took up the mantle of his father's work, who obviously directed and helped create the original Ghostbusters film. And what I'll say is maybe it's a little bit overzealous. Maybe it takes it a little bit too overboard, which we'll touch on in the negatives. But I have to give it up for Reitman for creating a film that just pays so much homage to his father's OG classic. There's Easter eggs galore here. So much so that you could probably have called this Ghostbusters the Easter egg hunt. But more so than that, I think he really attempts at capturing the vibe of the original, a lot of the aesthetic, a lot of the fun that original film brought forth. And I think his direction is nice, actually. It's a good looking film. It is directed well enough, though the pacing is off, which once again we'll loop back around. But I have to respect Reitman for what he did here in helping reinvigorate his father's legacy. Also, the tribute in the film that we get is beautiful to our past member of the Ghostbusters here in real life. As for our cast that are here in person, Mckenna Grace is so delightful. What a little star she is in general, and she's amazing in this film. I think Phoebe is definitely the right character to focus on. She's certainly the most interesting and entertaining character here. And her friendship with this little boy who calls himself Podcast is wonderful. They were far and away my two favorite characters of this film. I thought they were a lot of fun. And that's where the jokes that hit came from, for me personally, is those two characters. Paul Rudd and Carrie Coon are also both very good. Paul Rudd is always a delight to watch. However, they're not really utilized to their full potential, and where their paths go, I mean, it leads for a funny moment or two, but it's also a little bit over the top. So I can't really talk on the rest of the main cast here. We have some cameos, some guest spots throughout the entirety of the film, which are amazing, actually. And that third act just full on goes for it. It goes ham, and it's a lot of fun. Once we get Muncher appearing on screen and those little tiny Stay Puft little marshmallows running around, it's a lot of fun, and the ghost designs are fun. So when we actually get to ghost busting, there is some fun to be had. And it is such a loving homage to the original that I would be hard pressed to find a big fan of Ghostbusters that doesn't really have a good time watching this. So then, what doesn't work so well when it comes to Ghostbusters? Well, my biggest problem was the pacing. Honestly, that entire first act, everything until we get to Muncher appearing on the screen for the first time, was dreadfully boring. I was like bored out of my mind for at least half of this film, if I'm being honest, because even after he comes in, we still drag. And a big part of that was that I didn't really care about the storyline and I didn't really care about these characters. They're very paint by the numbers type of characters, right down to Phoebe, who I think was the most interesting. She's a character we've seen a million times in these like coming of age type of films that Ghostbusters ultimately ends up being for her. And I don't know, there's not a good connection. The very vague connection makes it more difficult to tie in that emotional turn near the end. We don't get to know them really well as humans, more as just insert X character here. And that kept me at arm's length and it made it really difficult to engage with the film because it just, I wasn't connected to the characters and only sort of connected to the story. Once the connections started to make themselves a lot more evident when the ghosts started to appear, that's when I started caring about the story more and having a better time. But speaking of characters, Finn Wolfhard, no. I'm sorry, Finn. Another miss on the portfolio for you, bud. He's not terrible, maybe. But he's not good. And speaking about not caring about characters, I did not care about his character at all. Zero. Him and his little plotline with his friend from work, Celeste. No. They could have just been cut out of the film, to be honest, because their plotline was pointless. They added nothing. He added nothing, except maybe for adding to my boredom. I think this film has a slight bit of identity crisis, clearly, very clearly. It is a nostalgia machine. I mean, the Easter eggs, the people, you dare try to take a shot every time you got a throwback, a callback, or an homage, a straight up Easter egg in your face. Easter egg, very large and in your face Easter eggs. You'd be dead probably about halfway through the film. You wouldn't be making it out of that goddamn theater alive. But hey, you may actually become one with the film experience because you'd be a ghost yourself. There are so many, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I do think the Easter eggs and the connections back to the first Ghostbusters make it a lot more fun. However, that's the big kind of framework I think our director was working from, but he laid it on top of this pretty young, skewing, coming of age type of plucky film that follows two young kids. And when it comes to the comedy, when it comes to the tone, when it comes to that original score, it felt very young. Like, I think your 10-year-olds are going to dig it, even though they have no idea about the 80s version. So it felt a bit tonally odd to me, really pulling for that nostalgia of those that grew up and loved watching this film in the theaters in the 1980s and quite young kids, 10-year-olds. And for me, the balance ebbed and flowed. Sometimes it worked well, but oftentimes it just fell flat. A lot of the jokes fell flat. I personally was missing that edge of like good sarcasm and that dryness that our original cast brings. That's the benefit of following adults. We get a very different style of humor from that original cast who have amazing chemistry in the original film compared to what we get here. Overall, Ghostbusters Afterlife is a serviceable sequel that will delight fans of the original film because, I mean, it really, really pays homage back to that film, harkens straight to it. When it fully brings those elements into the film and gives the fans what we truly wanted, gives us all the fan service we're walking into the movie theater for. Because when it's trying to build itself up as its own film, it unfortunately falls flat. So I will say, if you are a mega fan, a big fan of the original Ghostbusters, definitely give this a full price ticket. I can't imagine you won't have a blast with it. Also, if you have kids that are around 10 years old, go check it out. I think their enthusiasm will rub off on you as well, and the whole family can have a good time with it. If you're an adult who doesn't love the first Ghostbusters or didn't grow up on it, I think it's going to be hard for you to really get into this film. So I would say wait for rental. But if you do rush out, make sure you stay all the way through to the end. This is Marvel style, y'all. There are two post-credit scenes, one smack dab in the middle and one at the very, very end. So sit through those credits and watch all the way through to get the full viewing experience. So that was my review for Ghostbusters Afterlife. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see Ghostbusters Afterlife, or have you already seen it? Let me know your thoughts either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.